Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, a rock and roll Hall of Fame band, would not have existed without the failure of little-known country rock band Mudcrutch. The Gainesville, Florida band formed by Tom Petty and Tom Leadon had signed with Shelter Records in 1974 and moved their operations to Los Angeles, California before releasing their only single, Depot Street, in 1975, which flopped so hard that the band decided to split up. Petty took the failure in stride, and by 1976 he had formed Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers alongside Mike Campbell, Ron Blair, Stan Lynch, and Benmont Tench. Their 1976 self-titled debut album, much like the doomed Mudcrutch single, failed to gain any traction upon release, at least in the US. Before becoming American superstars, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers saw success across the pond in the UK after performing their song Anything That's Rock and Roll on Top of the Pops. After a tour in the UK, their album climbed to number 24 on the UK album charts. Their success across seas led to the re-release of their album and its singles in 1977. The album peaked at number 55 in the US and eventually went gold, and its lead single went on to hit the top 40 in both the US and Canada. Rumors say that the single's distinctive descending guitar lick was originally only present at the end of the song until singer Dwight Twilley, who was on the same label as the band, heard the recording and suggested using the riff throughout the song. Petty was so taken by the idea that he called the band back to the studio in the middle of the night to re-record the song. That's right, we're talking Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Breakdown on Cover Me.
Baby, break down. Go ahead, give it to me. Break down, honey, take me through the night. Break down, now I'm standing here. Can you see? Break down, so.
That's right, it's Cover Me, the only podcast that talks about famous songs and their many cover versions, compares them against one another to find out which one is going to go ahead and give it to me. I'm your host, as always, Jake Cressy, joined by my all-right co-host,
Alex Mildenberger.
Alex Mildenberg. I want to clarify that is all right and not alt-right.
I appreciate the
Just-
clarification. Just to prevent confusion.
Alex,
Yeah.
I made the call that this was going to be a home run intro. It was so fucking
It
close.
was real close. That was like it was still like a triple. It just didn't quite go out of the park.
Yeah. Ugh. It's the best I've done in weeks. Felt good though. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm all right.
Hey.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Call back to like 30 seconds ago.
I was going for a sip of my tea because I was like, he'll say something about the weather or something. No. Took me right out.
No,
Perfect, Alex.
nothing to say about the weather.
No, it's spring now.
It is spring, at least for now.
Yeah, that's, I guess, how time works.
We sometimes double back in Calgary, right?
Right.
We hit
right,
May
right.
and then we say it's time for a quick snowstorm before we get on into the rest of all this spring nonsense.
God, don't I know it? That's sometimes you're just waiting in Calgary, like, please come on, it's got to be spring
Well,
now.
I'm
right?
not
It's
gonna
like,
take
no.
my winter tires off now. It's not even May yet.
Yeah. Not even September yet, more like. We love to joke about the weather here. Alex, we may joke about the weather, but we're dead serious about Tom Petty
I'm always
and the
serious about Tom
Heartbreakers.
Petty. Usually the Heartbreakers as well.
Alex, I have a t-shirt from a Tom Petty concert I went to 11 years ago,
Yep.
and I'm wearing it right now, actually. I've been wearing it all week. It's a good shirt, and it still fits me.
I guess 11 years ago, like we haven't grown much since then because we were in high school.
Yeah,
Late high
certainly not
school.
physically or emotionally.
True. Yep, it's true on all counts.
True on all accounts. Alex, I've been a big Tom Petty fan for at least a decade.
Yeah.
How about you? What's your Tom Petty story?
I like Tom Petty. I listen to Tom Petty's music sometimes, and the Heartbreakers, of course.
And
Can't
the
forget the
Heartbreakers.
Heartbreakers. I didn't go to that concert. I could have gone to that concert with you, but I
You
elected
could've.
not to. I don't know. I decided it wasn't something I wanted to do. I wish I had though. Hindsight and all that. It would have
Yeah.
been good because I thought I'll see him sometime. And no, that can't happen anymore.
I mean, you'll still see him, Alex, in hell, but
See
before
you in
then, you're shit out of
hell,
luck.
Tom Petty. Because
He's
we're
passed.
rivals.
That's right. Alex,
I
were you a
consider
fan
us
of
rivals.
Tom Petty first or the Traveling Wilburys first?
Tom Petty. I knew Tom Petty way
Okay,
before the
yeah,
Traveling
yeah.
Wilburys.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Me too.
My dad bought the Traveling Wilburys CD, and I was like, "That's weird," and ignored it for like a while before I actually listened to it. But
Right.
definitely knew Tom Petty a long time before the Traveling Wilburys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's Tom Petty's a great musician. Never like the first musician that comes to mind when I think of incredible like artists, but when you listen to his catalog, like it's all very solid.
Yeah, in my brain, it's kind of a similar space as like CCR in that I forget
Mm.
about it, and then until I start listening to it, I'm like, "Oh, I like all this. Yeah,
Yeah, you're like, holy
good
shit, this
stuff.
is good.
Yeah. Oh, and this
Yeah,
one.
both in that vein of like sort of southern rock, in at least some of the music is a lot of southern rock, a lot of blues influence.
Yeah, with
in
some
both
the
of these
blues
two.
influence and some kind of like maybe a little bit countryside, and well, it can feel rural, but it really isn't.
Yeah, like Heartland,
Yeah,
America.
it kind of has that affect, but it's not, because like they're both from like opposite sides of the south part. Like they're from California and Florida, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not really what it is, but it almost feels like that.
Yeah. Speaking of blues influence, though, I think this single we're talking about, particularly Breakdown, big on blues influence.
Definitely big blues feel.
Yeah, allegedly, something I read online said that there was like this was recorded first as like a 7-minute song with like a big fucking guitar solo.
This was supposed to be
Eh.
7 minutes?
Yeah,
Well, it is not.
it's not. It's a tight under 3-minute song, and I think that's for the best because this song rips front to back.
Yeah, there's also a song by Jethro Tull that has a similar story, in that there's like a 7-minute version you can find, and there's like a 2-minute version. And the 2-minute version is just really tight, and it's a good song.
Yeah,
And,
sometimes it's good to just
yeah.
have a tight song, right?
Yeah. So, way to be tight.
Way to be tight. And this is tight from everything to the, like, even in terms of what's here, it's fairly minimalist in terms of its composition, in terms of what's being played, and of course, in terms of the lyrics, which we're going to discuss now.
Oh, shit. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. So it opens up. It's all right if you love me. It's all right if you don't. I'm not afraid of you running away, honey. I get the feeling you won't.
Feeling you
That's
won't.
the first half of the verse. They're sort of broken up in the song into basically 2 verses or 2 stanzas.
Yeah. And there's kind of 2 parts. There's the first part where he's kind of got this like casual, doesn't seem to care about the love aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this second half where it kind of shows the like confident side. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's got this perhaps blind confidence that this other person is not going to be leaving. This person he is presumably interacting with. And he's like, it doesn't care if it's love, whatever, because he's, I don't know, too cool maybe?
Yeah.
Too cool for
So
love?
is this about because somebody in Genius seems to suggest it's about a sexual encounter?
Potentially. That's what I got out of it, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
Because he's
that's a deep-
saying,
yeah.
because my only 2 ideas are it's either a sexual encounter or it's a possible breakup, just with the concept of breakdown. But I think with the lyrics themselves, particularly the chorus, it's much more sexual than it is like about parting ways potentially.
Yeah, like the picture I get anyway is like meet up in a bar kind of thing. And
Mhm.
Tom Petty's character is just this confident guy who's like, this person wants it as much as I do kind of situation.
Yeah, and he's quite willing to do it, and I get the sense that he's also fine if nothing happens, right? He says, I'm not afraid of you running away. Like, if you really, and these are expanded on in lyrics that are not actually present in this version.
True.
But yeah, like in here, he's just said, like, I'm not afraid of you running away. But I have a feeling you won't.
Yeah, which is my take was not that he didn't care if they left, but he's not even like considering the possibility.
Just because he gets the feeling that they want.
Yeah,
He's like,
he's
it's
it's just so confident. There's just like there's no chance of that happening, kind of thing.
right. And so yeah, and then the second half of this verse, the second stanza, sort of speaks to his reading of that person. Right? He says, "Say there
Yeah.
ain't no sense in pretending. Your eyes give you away. Something inside you is feeling like I do. We've said all there is to say."
Right. That again, saying he believes he knows what this other person is thinking through their eyes. Can tell through their eyes, which is of course the gateway to the soul, don't you know? Don't you
Yes.
know?
Don't you know?
And then very strongly believes this person agrees with him and perhaps wants to hook up or whatever.
Yeah, we're past the point of words now. This is the time of action.
Yeah.
Whether that action is hooking up or hooking out, as the kids say.
Hooking out, yeah.
Leaving. Like, now is the time. There's nothing else to be done.
Right. Now, one of the comments, and I think it might be ingenious, was like, "Hey, this song is about date rape. Think about it." I disagree.
I disagree strongly.
Because I don't know. Well, it just to me was kind of one of those hot takes that we have sometimes. It just felt like that, just pushing, trying to.
Yeah, you
be a
have
little
to
bit like,
interpret.
Hey, this song is
Yeah.
actually about negative things, so maybe you should feel bad for liking it. I'm like, you're kind of stretching there, buddy.
And like even in the chorus, all of the power of action is given to the other. All Tom Petty has on his side here is confidence. He's just calling it's the same as, I mean, to reference how you and I started this record, it's the same as calling a home run. Like,
Right.
he's just being like, this is probably what's gonna happen, but it's all up to you. Because
Right.
breakdown, go ahead and give it to me. He's not saying I'm here to take it from you. Go ahead and give it to me. Breakdown, honey, take me through the night. Enact upon me. Take me, baby, break down. Break down, now I'm standing here. He's motionless, can't you see?
Yeah.
Break down, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Right. I can see how, like, you would take the phrase breakdown, perhaps, the idea of, like, breaking someone down as being a negative thing. And, yeah, I see that. From the context in the song, though, I don't get the idea that that's what it means.
Yeah, is it the breakdown of communication? Because he ends on saying, we've said all there is to say. And so maybe as a reference to Led Zeppelin, like communication breakdown. Actually, that would be like contemporary with this time, wouldn't it? Maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it was a couple years before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think communication's necessarily ended, but like speaking has.
Yeah.
So there's not like a block to communication, I don't think. That's not what
I don't think it's like I think it is about the ceasing of speaking.
Yeah.
Because I guess there is more than just verbal communication, but I
Yeah,
think that might be the idea.
sexy communication.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based on the song, that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like to me. So he's like, there's also kind of like the two sides, because like you said, the chorus is all of this idea of like being acted upon, and then the verse like has his kind of like confidence, but then almost is like, and then when you get to the chorus, he's like, you can kind of see how much he's sort of like wishing for this thing to happen.
Yeah, because he's not taking a neutral stance by any means in the chorus.
Yeah. So even though he said, I mean, at the beginning, I guess it's all right if he doesn't care about like love per se, but just connection, I guess.
Yeah, there's the idea that we don't have to be in love, and then that's where I wonder about the line "ain't no sense in pretending," whether because he says "say" in front of that, and whether that's just him, speaking in the way he does, or if that's the line "there ain't no sense in pretending" is supposed to be a quote from the other party, suggesting that they're like, well, there's no sense in faking loving one another, and he's like, well, you're saying that, but I think you still want to bone down.
Because he can tell from the eyes.
Yeah,
I guess
your eyes give you away.
Those orbs, man. There's
And
not a lot
then
of lyrics.
not a lot of lyrics. Yeah, and like the most repeated line is the two words "It's all right." That's how the song starts. That's the end of the chorus.
That's true.
So ultimately, again, to sort of naysay that edgy take, it's
Hmm.
all right.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, so it is about just like a casual sexual encounter, I think.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
know.
it doesn't seem to be like super complicated
Mm-hmm.
beyond that. And we kind of talked about like blues influence, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm beginning to extrapolate, obviously, in the
Sure,
meaning
hit
of
me
the
with it.
song. But oftentimes, like the idea of the hookup is associated with the idea of like a relationship ending and kind of being sad and looking for short-term relationship,
Right.
sort of in between. So perhaps there's a connection there as well. Um, again, with the idea of like he's sad, perhaps. But
Right, he could be
that's a
sad.
pretty that's taking it a few steps further and making some guesses on my part because it's
Sure,
not really
yeah.
implied by the song directly.
Yeah, also in that same area, also not implied, but traveling musicians, right?
True.
And their relationships are very,
Short term.
come and go. It came up in Running with the Devil, where he's like he gets his loving on the run or something. There's some encounter in a bar in that song.
Right.
Beyond the woman he shouts at.
Right.
But
Yeah.
another thing worth noting is again this blues structure we've talked about before. A lot of blues songs. This is about like on par for lyrical density. A single like 8-line verse
True.
and then a chorus.
Which then gets repeated, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. With that, let's talk about the minimalist composition here, the music, the
Composition.
instruments. I once tried to learn this song on bass. And by tried to learn, I mean it's it's so easy.
It's like two notes.
Yeah, doom, doom, boom,
Boom,
boom.
boom. Although the bass is very important in this song, it's very like
Absolutely.
rhythmically driven.
Mhm.
So there's that bass, and it's really only playing the two notes, and then there's the drums as well, which kind of have this, and they kind of get into this groove that
Yeah, they're
carries it
locked in
through
with each other.
most of the song. Except I think it changes up a bit when we get to the chorus, but not much. Does it change
Yeah.
up? Am I right on that?
There's a couple little change ups. So at the end
Yeah,
of
it's like a
it might be a
bit.
4-bar phrase or something. The bass goes like doom, 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 doom. It hits like a couple extra notes at the end of a certain amount of times of doing the 1-2.
Yeah, that's the
Boom,
one.
boom. Yeah. And
Because
then of
that
course,
groove sticks around really throughout.
yeah,
That's really
because then the
holding it
keys
together.
come in as well, and they're doing those 2 notes.
Yeah. And then, but early on, there's kind of another like 2 chords that kind of add to that rhythm. Da da.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, it's like 2. It's 2 chords.
Mm-hmm. And it's so sparse. And then the only thing you have cutting through it is a short little riff on the lead guitar, which then evolves into the sort of signature descending riff.
Yes. Which is also pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. And even there, it still punches those 2 notes that everything else is hitting.
So it's kind of built in. Like they all weave together. Yeah, that descending riff, it's like 3 groups of 4 notes that kind of ascend at first and then descend. And yeah, it plays a few times throughout. It does sound good playing throughout, and I'm not surprised that once the idea came up, they thought it was a good idea. But also,
Yeah.
it's such a funny story to just think of someone being like, "Hey, why don't you do that again?" And he's like, "Oh shit, yeah."
Oh shit! Look, we gotta get everybody back in here.
Seems so simple, but sometimes those small changes can make a lot of difference.
Yeah, and like that's a guitar line, objectively easy to play, but it sounds cool as hell.
Yeah, that's a lot of blues stuff is like that.
Yeah,
It
I
just has a really
suppose.
cool sound to it. When you get those like kind of like small bends and stuff in there, I guess those are blue notes.
Yeah.
That are like half flat kind of stuff. Which the guitar kind of does that. Like the pitch like changes a bit, you know?
Yeah.
Like on the last note. It does like a bend.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's how you're playing it that makes it so compelling here, I guess. Because like note for note, it's pretty simple, but you get those bends and a little bit of that actual like skilled blues playing in there. That's
Yeah.
what makes it pop.
Yeah, so you kind of get that combination of that like that riff, this really solid groove that just kind of like you kind of sink into the song, you know?
Mhm.
And the song even has this like laid back confidence to it in the way they play it, which
Yeah.
is related to the lyrics, and it all supports
Yeah,
each other.
because
They support each
you
other.
get like Tom Petty slinks in with his vocals, and it's not like the song suddenly picks up. It's all still playing with that same level of energy that's established right off the bat, but everything's just like clicking together, just fitting, like puzzle pieces. It's all
Yeah.
like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and he starts pretty low energy too, so like 6 down there.
Mm-hmm.
And then keeps in that the guitar kind of has this like slide down thing it does
Yeah.
between those other chords that play that we talked about before. There's
Yeah.
there's a couple sounds because there's like an organ later on, but there's kind of an electric piano type sound, which might be not quite an electric piano, but that's what plays those chords.
Yeah.
And then later on we actually get some organ.
Yeah.
There's a point in the first verse, and I wish I had got a timestamp on it, but it sounds like someone whispers something in the background.
Yeah, you want 49 seconds, I think?
Yeah, that
Right,
sounds
it's right
right.
after that first half of the verse.
Yeah, that's right.
And it goes,
Does it sound like a word to you, or?
I like it's, you know what it is? It's him saying say.
Oh, that's in the lyrics.
Because I never registered him saying say. And so when it was in the lyrics, I was like, that's confusing. Like, where does that fit? That's where it is.
So that should be in brackets, quite frankly. That's almost more
Yeah.
like an ad lib.
Yeah. Actually, let me listen back
Yeah,
to that. Because
it
it
does
might even
sound
say
like that.
you say.
Hmm.
I think he says you say.
Let me listen to that. Does kind of sound like there's another syllable there.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it on YouTube where I can slow it down. Worth noting in this section is and this is one of the other key parts, is this sort of bridge riff section. This ascending pattern that relies on the keys. This
Yeah, it does like a quick build in with those chords. But then because there's 2 halves of the verse, at this point goes right back into that second half. So it's kind of kind of a faux build. Drop back down, and then after the second half it actually gets into that chorus. It legitimately builds. And I'll let you listen to the thing. I'm assuming that's what you do.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I'm doing right now here. I fucking feel like it's you say. It sounds like you say to me. Unless that genius one is like official liner notes, I'm gonna say it's you say. Which changes the context.
Yeah, it changes a little
Kinda,
bit.
but
So
I think
if
I
it's you
touched on
say,
that.
there ain't no sense in pretending. That would imply they're like kind of having a disagreement. Perhaps pretending
Mhm.
he's like he doesn't care if it's love, and they're like, well, what's the point without love? Maybe.
Yeah, that's my kind of read on it.
But he
And
doesn't
then
believe
he's
them.
saying, you're saying that, but your eyes are telling me that you're horny for the petty.
Yeah,
You're-
perhaps. Of course, this was in the 70s. There was more like attitude that would be like wait for marriage kind of thing. No sex
Right.
without marriage or love or whatever. Or that would be more of the idea, more of something that a young person might suggest and that an older person would be put off by. So I think it it makes sense in a rock and roll song from the era.
Yeah, particularly, Tom Petty is a big Elvis Presley fan.
Oh yeah.
And so he obviously draws on a lot of like original rock and roll, I think, in his music. So that seems like something that would come up in old school rock, like 50s, 60s rock. So to see it in 70s interpreted by Tom Petty makes sense.
I think so. I think it does make sense, but it's really hard to hear.
Yeah,
It's still
it's
kind of
tough
ambiguous.
to say for sure.
Um,
Either way.
yeah. What else happens?
So we've talked about the transition riff. We've talked about the exciting say vocal take, and then we're back into the second half of the verse, which is
Boom.
same as the first half, really, right?
Yeah. They do the build again, but it's real this
Yeah.
time.
They
That's
do the
it.
full build.
And then he shouts, "Baby!" And then this is where he, like, gets into his more intense singing. It's not laid back anymore.
Yeah.
This is just kind
Perhaps
of like
you said.
yeah, his like appeal to the other person, be like, "Come on!"
Yeah, but betraying his actual
Right.
what he
his
said. He's
not
like,
coolness, perhaps.
yeah. And so we get a little bit distortion on that guitar doing the bam, bam.
Yes, you get
Kinda
that.
little-
You get that more electric guitar. Because
Mhm.
before it was still kind of playing, but now we're getting, yeah, like you said, that distortion. And it does a slide
Yeah.
down too at the start, which it was doing before. It kind of boom,
That's right.
slides in,
Bam.
and then just like chords, playing chords. I think there's more chords now, more than 2.
Yeah, it's bam, bam, bump, bam. I think we're at 3 chords now.
Yeah, and it sort of follows the vocal melody too,
Yeah.
which makes sense. Like that's usually how it goes, I guess.
Yeah. And we've seen this sort of composition, verse soft, chorus hard. But this is probably one of the most sparse hard choruses we've seen. Like everything is working to make it harder, but it's not like the activity level is about the same as the verses.
Like the underlying groove is still there, and like you're still getting those 2 chords from the EP sound.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the vocals are working harder, and that guitar is there, and there's backup vocals, but like the backbone of the song doesn't change. The drums are still
Yeah.
the same.
So yeah, it's just very efficient, very effective. Yeah, this is what Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers do. Is just like it's very good music.
And then we get another build at the end.
That's right. That's that transition of dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it's supported by some more backup vocals this time around.
That's right. We get the backup vocals. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So like very similar to the end of the verse, but with some extra stuff, which is kind of like what the chorus is, similar to the verse, but with some extra stuff.
Yeah, and then we rip from that transition into a little kind of blues piano bridge.
Yeah, that's not very long. I called this part a guitar solo, but it's the riff from before.
Yeah, it's that they called it a lick in a quote I read. It's whatever you want to call it. It's like
I'd
the
call it a
signature of
lick.
this song.
I don't really like. I will use the word lick and riff in different situations, but I will also use them interchangeably for the most part.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if there's really that much of a difference.
Yeah, I guess the difference on this section, it's not a difference between riff and lick, but between its first use of this and the next one is now it's playing with the backup vocals and a little second section it adds. That's almost a guitar solo. It goes
Right, it starts to play fast, and it's kind of got some distortion on that too.
Yeah, so if not soloing, it seems almost improvisational. Like here's some licks that go well together.
Okay, hang on. I'm on Wikipedia on the lick brackets
more
music
like Lickopedia.
webpage. It says a lick is different from the related concept of a riff, as riffs can include repeated chord progressions. Licks are more often associated with single-note melodic lines than with chord progressions. However,
Okay, this is a lick then.
like riffs, licks can be used It can be the basis of an entire song. Single line riffs or licks uses the basis of Western classical music. Pieces are called ostinatos. Contemporary jazz writers also use riff or lick like ostinatos in modal music and Latin jazz, etc., etc. Okay, so generally, it's a little weird to distinguish between the two, but a riff is more likely to include chords, or
Right.
possibly requires chords.
Okay, that checks out. So they both can serve the same function. This is like when we were talking about a section that was a bridge and a refrain a
Right.
couple weeks back. So functionally they're the same, but in terms of what pieces they're comprised of, a lick and a riff are different.
Yeah, you'd construct them differently.
Yeah. Okay.
Even
so
though
this
they
is a
often
lick.
do similar things, and then either one can be a hook. But I wouldn't really call it a hook in this case. It's not really. I mean, it's a good lick, but I wouldn't say it's like a hummable. It's hummable, but I wouldn't say you would like. It's not the kind of thing that would get stuck in your head, like a hook might.
Yeah, I think having listened to this song all week, the part that gets stuck in my head is the start of the chorus. Baby,
yeah,
break down. Like that's been going through my head.
And then the like, baby, baby, break down, backup vocals.
Yeah,
which
backup vocals.
A
are
note
killing
on that.
This.
The lyrics on Genius say, "Take me, baby, break down." I've always just heard "baby, baby, break down." In fact,
Yeah,
I
that's
listened
me
again
too.
and I don't hear a T there for "take me." But
Let's see, do I still got the YouTube one open? No, I don't. Let me see. I'll go. I'll try. I'll take it in slow mo. See what happens.
yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like "baby, baby" to me.
that's what I've always heard. Doesn't even sound like
that's-
ambiguous to me personally. But.
Yeah, I know it's.
But again, this could be taken from the liner notes, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, until
Somebody.
we-
I don't have this album.
Nor do I. Yeah, but that's that. Now I've lost where we were.
We were talking about the lick in the
right after the first
lick
chorus
section,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it plays that like faster bit, lots of repeated notes, and then that kind of transitions back into another chorus, which is very very similar. I think his singing is more intense because that's where a lot of the intensity comes from. But other than that, it sounded the same to me.
Yeah. From there we kind of fade out on that guitar riff, the descending riff, and the backup vocals.
Yeah.
Like that's the next big major change, I think. I mean, yeah, it's 2 minutes 43 seconds. That's pretty much it.
It's short.
Fucking solid.
The fade out's quite fast.
Mm-hmm.
They do fade out, but like it's not like a long one. So yeah, pretty cool song. I mean, Tom Petty has a pretty distinctive voice. It definitely sounds like he has kind of this like tight feeling, like he's singing kind of from the I'm trying to think of like placement of sound. To me, it sounds like the top of his what's this? Like the back of his jaw. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of how when I try
like,
to do a
kind of
Tom
like
Petty
it's kind of
impression.
like a nasal thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd buy that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And he's got some interesting like enunciation on some words. Like when he says, "It's all right if you love me. It's all right if you don't."
Don't.
Don't.
Yeah, I wonder if that's some of that country rock inspiration there.
Yeah, and I don't know what like a Florida accent sounds like
Yeah, I
necessarily.
couldn't tell you.
But I'm sure there's something there. And your eyes give you a way, really, a.
Yeah,
Holds
he
that
really
one.
plays around with those.
Yeah, so there's some, just like a couple like that. Interesting pronunciation. And this is something I kind of went back and added to my notes after listening to all the other ones, but the delivery, his delivery is like incredibly important to this song, and we talked about it before.
Oh, yeah.
But it becomes very obvious with some of the other versions that just don't have that.
Yeah, and I would argue that extends to the instruments as well. The two
for sure.
tones they're establishing here in the verse and the chorus are like perfectly balanced. And that's something a lot of these covers today, I think, struggle to sort of hit that mark.
Right. They managed to play the instruments in a way that like gives off the kind of attitude of the song, which is this more like laid back bluesy thing. And it's easy to play the notes without infusing it with the sort of mood.
Yeah. But I also agree that Tom Petty's vocal performance carries a lot of the energy, and it does a lot to make this song what it is. Like, he does a great performance.
For
With
sure.
that, let's talk about these cover versions, Alex,
Yeah.
starting in the year 1978 with Suzi Quatro.
Just a couple years later.
Baby, break down. Go ahead and give it to me. Break down, honey, take me through the night. Break down, now I'm standing here, can't. Break down, it's alright.
Yeah.
I've not heard of Suzi Quatro.
Nor have
Apparently she's like fairly important in the just like development of the idea of a female rock star who's a rock star independent of like the men around her.
I. Right.
Like Joan Jett type. She's kind of
Yeah,
like
and
proto
her-
Joan Jett.
Yeah, her performances, and like I listened to some of what her big hit songs were, all carries that sort of proto Joan Jett vibe to it. And other similar acts, but yeah, it is that style of rock and roll.
Yeah, which is kind of cool, especially at the time. It was probably a lot like fresher,
A lot edgier, right?
Yeah.
And it's good. I like that style of rock. Like, it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Notably, she's also an actor. She played Leather Tuscadero on Happy Days,
Yes,
a recurring character who played the bass guitar.
of course. Happy Days.
Happy Days, yeah.
Favorite show. It's Happy Days. Is that the one with Fonzie?
That is the one with
Fonz?
Fonzie.
Yeah. That's all I know about Happy
think.
Days.
Truthfully, me as well.
And
as
the
far as
theme
my
song,
knowledge goes.
Because we had a theme song CD that we used to listen to sometimes. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Happy Days. I don't remember the rest of
That's
it
what
now.
sounds like. Oh, there you
Something like
go.
that. Sunday, Monday, Happy Days. Tuesday, Monday, Happy Days. Thursday,
Every
Friday,
fucking
Happy
day,
Days.
Happy Days.
Saturday, what a day. We're spending all week with you. Anyway, Happy Days. She was apparently on.
She's apparently, yeah. So not like a main cast member, but a recurring, character.
So this version, just right off the bat, it gets the groove, but it actually feels very different. The other one kind of had this like lazy feeling to it, and the reason is they kind of stretched out the first part. Like, it was swung, but it wasn't like, usually when you swing, or like by default if I swing notes, it'll be basically taking a triplet and connecting the first two together. So you hold your note for the first two counts and then play the second note on the third count, instead of
Right.
doing it even between two counts. So the original version kind of extends that beginning part for longer.
Yeah. Like, you can hear this version sounds faster.
Yeah, and I believe that's why. Because it's
Yeah.
it's straighter, still swung a bit, but straighter.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like even like the organ that's playing the two note pattern sounds a little more like staccato, almost dun 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 dun, and the drums feel a little like, yeah, everything just feels like it's been sped up a little.
Yeah, which is interesting because I don't think it's that much faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it can't be that huge of a difference, right? But you can hear it.
Yeah, it feels different, so it's interesting. I guess that's why it's a groove that you lock into. That this one just doesn't have that same aspect. But anyway,
Yeah.
so it feels less groovy, and I guess that kind of works because it kind of gets a little more like rocky than bluesy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as soon as you get that guitar in, it's very clear that the noise is closer to like hard rock or punk rock at the time than it is to the blues that the original seems to take root in.
Yeah, it also like there's an organ that kind of comes in more prominently earlier on.
Yeah.
without the higher keyboards part.
That's right. It is just the organ on here.
And the other thing about the guitar is it almost has this like distant sound to it.
Yeah, like it's coming from a long ways away.
Yeah. Did you say that?
No.
Okay. Sometimes
I just
I think I like zoned out for a second and then I'm just like repeating what you said, which I'm sure happens.
Sure.
But sometimes I think that
Not that time. No, I just talked about the distortion on that guitar and how it sounds of a different genre.
I see. Yes. So yeah, it's kind of definitely like creating its own sound early on with these kind of subtle differences or small differences.
Yeah, that are given how little there is in the original song, like small differences are more noticeable.
True, being more sparse. And then even, especially when we move into that verse, the guitar cuts out totally.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, focused on the kind of groove. But without that, like, descending guitar thing that was going on in the original.
Yeah. And so then we, at the end of the first half of the verse, we get a big cymbal transition, but also the ascending pattern on that lower organ. Like, and that's something.
Sorry, I was just trying to figure out what there's also like a big guitar chord.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if that happens in the original now. I didn't think it did.
No, if it does, it's probably on the second go around.
That seems like the right place for it. Yeah, it's not in the
Yeah.
original. But that gets played here. Again, it's a little more like it's got that like edge. It's got a little more of that edge. Like
Yeah, we're
kinda
giving attitude right off the
rockish-
bat.
Rockish, almost like punkish edge. Especially when you like her vocals kind of have this like echo that almost give it that punkish, almost like not pop punk, but like later punk type sound. Like that would be
Right.
more compressed.
Yeah, because you're not going to get that in punk of this time, but of later times for sure.
Yeah. Although once
yeah.
you get into the chorus, then you get some more edge on those vocals, and that's where you get that kind of punkish. I guess garage rock is probably more.
Yeah,
accurate
that might be the
sound.
apt term. Yeah. Before that though, in the second I'm just gonna call it the second verse.
Sure.
There's the backup vocals come in.
That's right. They come in. Like on the build. Is that right? Oh no, they come in before. It's like-
After the first line, and they go.
yeah, like a spacey whisper thing
Mm-hmm.
where they're just kind of doing, vowel sounds or whatever. That
Yeah, and it's
whatever
been
you
like
use for backup
filtered or
vocals.
something, so it's got that sort of weird effect on it.
Maybe they're just across the room.
Maybe.
I'm sure that's not true. But yeah, there's lots of
Yeah, so the chorus is
I've
big
gone to
rock
the wrong
energy,
part.
heavy cymbals. You've got her screaming. Big backup vocals similar to the original, but now surrounded by all these more cacophonous instruments.
yeah, so it's more of a garage rocky feel. Really.
Yeah.
Goes back into that guitar riff. It doesn't have like the organ or keys part that the original
Yeah,
one
that
has.
little like quick transition,
Um,
but the organ is playing around it here, the keys.
Yes,
Just
it's
playing it,
playing,
like
but
a
it doesn't have like its own section
Yes.
anymore.
Anymore.
So this part's a little longer, I think. Maybe not. It does the riff anyway.
Yeah, I think it's about the same. This song does end up being longer. Was there a guitar
It
solo
does.
in here?
They add another verse. So after this part
Oh,
goes back
yeah.
into the like beginning of the verse.
That's right.
And she sings it now like a little bit different. It's a little bit more like staccato now.
Yeah. And I think it might be double tracked or like done in a different key or something.
It does sound double track.
Yeah.
She kind of gets that like, it's alright if you don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That part, it sounds a little different. So it's not, it's not the same recording, which I'm sure
Not the same recording.
isn't. Sometimes I wonder about that. If you have a song that's like, has a lot of repetition in it, How often do you think they'll just like record it once and
then just
Just
loop it.
loop it? Because like you could. There's nothing stopping you
Yeah.
from doing that, and most people probably wouldn't notice. I probably wouldn't notice. And really, you're trying to make it sound as similar as possible between
Yeah.
repetitions. So like, how often does that happen? Do you think? We
I don't
can't
know.
say. We're not in the
I
industry.
can't say. Not in
But
the
I wonder
industry.
about that sometimes because I feel like
If you're in the industry, let us know.
I feel like for some artists it would be like a point of pride almost. Be like, no, I'm doing both. But
yeah, like I can hit it every time.
and at the same time, I'm sure you have like 20 takes or whatever. Anyway, so if you do them both every time, are you going to use them both from the same one every time?
Yeah.
Probably not, at least
Probably not.
depending, depending on which, depending on the artist.
Yeah. Lot to consider there.
Anyway, what else is going on here? So she sings a little bit different, but there's also some changes near the end.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of this, I don't know what the sound is necessarily, but it sounds kind of like high layered vocals. I don't think it's vocals really, but it kind of has the sound of like when Queen does those really high layered like falsetto vocals.
Oh yeah, it's something like they
Yeah.
do on like the start of Ogre Battle.
Yeah, or like what is it? In the Lap of the Gods?
Yeah.
That kind of sound. Just for a little
Yeah,
bit.
this like operatic, but,
really
like,
high.
electronic.
Yeah, because there's layers, I think, is why.
Yeah.
It sounds like that. It just
Yeah,
happens leading into the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a fun sound. Chorus sounded about the same to me until the end,
Yeah. I agree with that.
where they do the build, but it's extended now,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit longer.
Yeah, oh, and the keys start doing that like big arpeggio thing.
Oh yes, that might be what I meant. Oh yeah, kind of like as it goes, it's still doing the chord changes, but there's now like hitting more notes in between.
Yeah, and then that sort of that part of the keys carries on into their next chorus.
Yeah, which fades out for a really long time.
Yeah.
Fades.
So yeah,
fades a bit
big
long.
fade out and an extra repetition of the verse makes this one just about a minute longer.
Yeah, there's still some like interesting things the way this one builds, with some of the it, like kind of brings in weird sounds, like we mentioned that high operatic thing that might not actually be
Mhm.
vocals, and the extended version of the transition riff and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So there's some interesting ideas in here. I don't think it's an amazing cover necessarily, but there's some cool changes that give it a different feel. Like it feels more kind of more edgy a little bit, a little more of that like garage rocky punky or early
Yeah.
punky feel, but although also really peeling back that grooviness that the original one kind of had in the like bass and drums.
Yeah,
keys
100%.
Even though it still does those things.
Yeah, so it's like it hits the hard sections really well. It's very clear that Suzi Quatro has experience, punching with hard rock.
Mm-hmm.
But then the softness of the verses, that soft subtle groove, is lost because she can't go that low basically.
Right. And then you just kind of get that punk thing where you sort of space it out a bit, maybe. Is that what they're doing?
Mhm.
Kind of double
Maybe.
track it to make it sound a little more spacey because they don't like
Right.
sing soft as well. I don't know.
That could be
Maybe
it.
that's just a sound they're trying to make. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're right. It plays with some interesting tones. I think ultimately it like that groove is so vital that losing it does make this one feel lesser. But I mean, her chorus is great. I think her screaming is fucking awesome.
Mhm.
I like some of the interesting noises that go on. They intrigue me if nothing else. Yeah, I'd say it's a respectable version overall.
Yeah.
With that, we're gonna talk about Grace Jones in 1980.
Break down, honey, go ahead and give it to me. Break down, honey, take me
Grace Jones, someone who I admittedly don't know that much about, but for
Mhm.
some reason always like mix up Grace Jones and Grace Slick, who are not similar,
Okay.
but both are named Grace, and I occasionally say the wrong last name.
Way to go, Alex. Let's hope you don't do it today. Grace Jones is a Jamaican model, singer, songwriter, record producer, and actor. Associated with Studio 54, she's been ranked number 82 on VH1's 100 Greatest Women of Rock and Roll, and according to Wikipedia, she's partially inspired artists such as Annie Lennox, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Solange, Lorde, Nile Rodgers, and others.
Yeah, she's definitely important in music. I've definitely heard people talk about her kind of like her look.
Yeah,
had
her
this,
look
like,
is very important.
Yeah, like the way she does her hair, very like short and close cut,
Mhm.
kind of like there's like an androgyny about it, but also like very sharp, like
Mhm.
kind of has like the makeup. What's the word? Um, Contouring. Or she just has. I think she has big cheekbones, and then also there's some like makeup making them look even bigger. So there's
Yeah.
very like sharp look.
Yeah, she's very cool looking in the few photos I've seen.
Yeah.
And for some reason she has the title of the Honorable. On Wikipedia, it's referred to as the Honorable Grace Jones,
Oh.
and I thought that was just for like lawyers.
Yeah, I'm wondering where that title even comes from.
Yeah,
That's fun.
by lawyers I meant judges.
Judges. Oh yeah, judges. That sounds right. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe if you're
Don't know.
inducted into the order of something or other.
Maybe.
She's Jamaican? Maybe it's some sort of national.
And Jamaica, those awarded the Order of Jamaica, which she has been awarded. Okay, this makes sense.
Okay.
Considered Jamaica's equivalent to a British knighthood, are styled the Honorable.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we have like the Order of Canada, which would be
Right.
the same thing basically.
So the Honorable Grace Jones is such a big deal that, according to Wikipedia, Tom Petty actually wrote another verse just for her version.
Yep, there's a second verse in this version,
That's right, baby.
which
And that
comes after the
verse-
first one.
Comes after the first one.
And it goes, "It's okay if you must go. I'll understand if you don't. You say goodbye right now. I'll still survive somehow. Why should we let this drag on?" So it's a very different ending to the story than what the person believed at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because despite their insistence, they were refused. And they were like, all right, I'm not happy about it necessarily, but that's fine.
Well, that's still in indecision, right? Because the second line is, "I'll understand if you don't."
Oh, I see.
okay.
It hasn't happened.
Yeah. It's almost just a rephrasing of the first half of the first verse there.
Right. It's almost like if people did think the song was about date rape, which again, I don't. This verse
Mhm.
is like, nah. They're being understanding, right?
Yeah, they're saying, "Hey, whatever you want to do, I'm gonna be all right. The one bad thing is to let this indecision drag on."
Ah, so the real problem here is the indecision.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. And you did mention there was potentially a longer version of this song somewhere, even if it's just in someone's
yeah.
imagination.
Well, yeah.
A
So
band
there's,
member.
I mean, yeah, there's like a guitar solo version of this for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Oh,
And
so
I
it
guess
wouldn't
from
have more lyrics necessarily. It might just have a really long guitar solo.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It's just a big fatty guitar solo that they
Which-
took out.
Yeah, I guess that's a blues thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Have a bit of a song, have a guitar solo for 5 minutes, and then end the song.
Yeah,
with the
well, and
chorus.
apparently in live performances, Tom Petty would sometimes incorporate breakdown with Ray Charles' "Hit the Road, Jack."
Which kind of works in with what we were talking about earlier about maybe this following a breakup.
Yeah,
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah. So it opens up ideas, but I don't think there's anything conclusive to be said.
No, definitely not.
What we can say conclusively is that this version, in my opinion, is pretty cool.
It's a neat version. It's got more of this like new wave feel.
Yeah.
Comes in with the riff, the descending guitar riff, but it's on a bass guitar now.
That's right.
And then there's another guitar that's playing those like two chords and has this really fast like tremolo type effect, which might be chorus, but effects are hard, or I don't know them, or both.
Yeah, or both. And we also get that like snake rattle percussion. That.
Oh yeah, that like jawbone thing.
Yeah.
Oh no, that sounds more like a snake rattle. It doesn't sound like a jawbone. That sounds like a hiss, like a. I can't make the sound. I can't. I'm not a snake. I'm sorry.
Not a snake. It's okay.
But yeah, this one has a lot more sounds, and it kind of has more like a walking bass line sound to it as well. This is
Yeah,
once we get to the
100%.
verse. There's a lot. This is a long version. This is 5.5 minutes long.
Yeah. Apparently there is a single version that's 3 minutes, but I didn't
Lame.
look hard enough, so my bad.
Who's got time for that? We're 5.5 minutes here, not 3.
Yeah, baby.
And the vocals in this one, I think, just kind of as part of the new wave thing, feel a little bit more detached.
Yeah.
They keep the sort of lower energy of the Tom Petty version because it was kind of laid back, but instead of laid back, they just, yeah, like I said, have this sort of detached feeling.
Yeah, and she sings kind of like nice and low. It's a very cool sounding voice.
Mm-hmm. What other sounds do we have here? There's an organ doing the like build part. I'm at the end of the verse. Is that?
Yeah.
Doing the build part in the verse, and has a bunch of tremolo on it. But it kind of has this like really quick pitch bend sound, like a pitch bend wheel. And it kind of sounds like the flute synthesizer from This Must Be the Place.
Yeah.
The like
bit.
Prophet 5 sound.
Yeah. I hear that.
Which we talked about way back.
Over a year ago now.
Yeah, that was last February.
That's right, buddy.
For Lover Me, the first one.
Lover Me the First.
And chorus has increased energy, but it's not like the intensity of Tom Petty, because he's like shouting it. This is still got that like new wave detachment, but it is increased energy. And the guitar adds like some backbeat strums, which doesn't make it sound reggae, but is definitely something you'd hear in reggae.
Mm-hmm. And she's got the backup vocals who back her on every breakdown, she says.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And then that fluty sound, the Prophet 5 thing. I'm assuming it's Prophet 5 because they were so popular.
Yeah, 1980, that's about the right time.
Yeah. It's got that sound playing throughout this chorus. Break now.
Yeah. And then from the chorus we move into like a little instrumental jam section with a guitar at the front.
Yeah, this one has kind of get that like groovy feeling, and there's like this wood block that hits. It's kind of a weird hit too. Like it'll hit a couple times in a row.
Oh yeah, that like dun dun dun, or is that a cowbell there?
Might be cowbell. I'm listening for it. I can't find it. Like it'll hit like.
Oh yeah, I'm hearing it.
It hits like
I'm
3
the
times,
woodblock
but it
now.
hits on the backbeat. So like it's out of sync, kind of. Kind of a cool sound.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like percussion on this, like beyond a kit.
Yeah, that will like come in for a minute, so it's hard to
Mhm.
mention all of it. But yeah, cool sounds. And then that guitar solo, that's like sort of just does this like groove. It's kind of like this low key groove thing,
Yeah.
which is based on the descending riff. And I think it also, they're either muting it or it has like a high noise gate, and it cuts off. Noise gate, like gate.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe not noise gate. Is it called noise gate or just gate?
I think both work.
Yeah, gate makes more sense to me here because we're not like it's not talking about noise.
Yeah, because it's not for for the purpose of filtering noise
Yeah.
necessarily, just filtering.
Anyway, so the guitar has that sound to it, and then it does like a build into the verse. The second verse, not the same as the first.
That's right.
Oh no, wait, this is a repeat. Wait,
Actually, she does repeat
this is
the first
this is the
verse
same as the first.
and then jumps straight into the new verse.
Yeah. Kind of
And
a
the guitar is kind of like riffing and jamming while this goes on. It does a nice downward run at the start of the second verse.
Yes, which is kind of what it does in the original. The
Yeah.
thing. And then we talked about that. What happens there is that verse. Another chorus, louder chorus. I noticed the guitars a little more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just noticing it now.
Yeah. And
In
then there's
the
like,
left half of the speakers, right?
I didn't notice that. But
Okay.
I
all right.
believe you, unless your speakers are broken.
Maybe.
Headphones, I guess. Then there's another chorus, but there's like guitar screech right at the start.
That's right.
Just real quick, like a cat. I don't know why. It made me think of a cat, but it did. Does that goes back into that solo-ish section with those woodblock hits. There's a lot of
That's
weird
right.
sound effects here. There's like some twang sounds and like some lasery sounds and like a triangle or something.
Yeah. This has gone the complete opposite route of the original and being like, we're going to have a bunch of things happening.
Lots of stuff happening. Very different sound from the like minimalist blues. This is like new wave.
Yeah.
And then just like there's like does some humming and kind of ad libs, and there's just a bunch of like instrument sounds.
Right.
And like, oh baby, kind of grooving
That's right.
out.
Because the back 2 minutes is just like grooving.
Yeah,
and
for
then she
quite
throws
a
in some
while.
Vocalization.
Yeah, you get all that synth and all those sounds that were happening before happening.
Yeah. And it's this one, I would say, like, it masters having a groove, but it is a different groove from the original.
It's a very different feeling. It's
Yeah.
not tight like the original one is. It's
Mhm.
quite a bit longer. But it's a cool sound to have. I think there might just been like a different approach to making music between 76 and 80.
Yeah.
Where you could have, I mean, they had longer songs before. I don't know. It's longer is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it is longer. And when she was traditionally, she's associated with dance a lot too. Billboard ranked her as the 40th greatest dance club artist of
True.
all time.
So it might be that kind of like, all right, here's a minute and a half or whatever to dance because we
Yeah,
like
we
this
got this
groove and
groove
we
going
think
on.
you'd like to dance to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, this is like pretty low key. Like it's not like it has this really heavy like boots and cats thing going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what dance this would be, but as a potentially a dance track, definitely has a different feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the performance overall. I like a lot of the instruments happening in this. It's got a very cool feel to it, which I guess part of the original is just feeling cool as well, and this one also feels cool.
True, a very different kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's cool. Let's talk about Wolfie in 2001.
Yes.
Baby, break it down. Go ahead, give it to me. Break it down, honey, take me through the night. Break it down, I'm still here, can't you see?
From Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, where that a cappella group we talked about.
That
few
was
weeks
who it
back
was. I
from.
could not remember where I read it. Yeah.
It was, I think it was whoever was on I believe in a thing called Love episode.
Okay.
Could be wrong in that, but that's my guess. Active from 1996 to 2001, they're an indie rock band. They say they originated in 1991, where two of the dudes met in high school. This is Wolfie on the album Tribute to Tom Petty.
Yeah, which
This is
is
a compilation album.
yeah, one of those compilation albums that have terrible album artwork.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like this they don't have a brand to I guess Tom Petty is front and center, which is how they're selling this. But like, why would you want your album artwork to look awful at this? Like, you're using Tom Petty's name to sell it, but nothing else, really?
Yeah, like come on.
Like, it's, I don't know. Anyway, and really trying to push the like Americanness, because there's an American flag, the car is white, and the text is red and blue. Like,
Right.
I think there's an American flag hanging from the rear view, or I thought it might be
there's
fuzzy dice.
one
or
hanging.
something.
It's got a big flag hanging
Yeah.
on it. I don't know if there's one hanging off like the rear view
Well,
mirror. Or something.
I'm looking at the rear view and, behind the windshield there, and I see red, white, and blue, but I don't know what form it's in.
Right. Yeah, I see it there. I don't fully understand what it is.
It's somehow staying in place. Anyway, this version is one of the very close covers that we talk about, and like most of them, I would say it's not very exciting.
Yeah, made of cheaper parts.
Yeah.
I think their energy in the verses is too high.
Yeah,
part
it's
of
a
it
little
being
more
that-
even throughout.
That loud slide it does.
Yes, that it's really based around that now, or like it features that very prominently, and before it was very much in the background.
Yeah. And then they're rocking the synth that's part organ, like part vibraphone.
Oh, I really don't like the organ sound they have.
Yeah.
It's very unpleasant to me. Just playing
and
those.
another thing that
those
happens
chords.
in this
Yeah.
is the lead singer gets totally overpowered by the backup vocals.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's definitely, it sounds like he's doing a Tom Petty impression.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what he sounds like all the time. I didn't listen to any other Wolfie.
Yeah, hard to say for sure. He sounds like particularly on the chorus, like a very laid back dude who's trying to be aggressive. Like people tell him he's not authoritative enough. He's like, I'll show you, baby.
Yeah, it doesn't have the attitude. It's like he's pushing too hard.
Yeah.
Even though the original, I don't know, the original's more believable. Maybe it's not that he's pushing too hard. Maybe it's just that he's not doing it in a believable way.
Maybe.
But either way, I didn't believe it.
Yeah, and particularly, and maybe it was a choice, but he like falters on the repetition of "It's all right." He's like, "It's all right."
Oh yeah, he kind of, yeah, it's like too high. Kind of loses it.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, like they're following it note for note. They put in the backup vocals at the same place. Weird thing about this one is it ends and then there's still 20 seconds left on the track.
Yeah, they were fading out, and I was like, holy shit, how long is this fade out gonna be?
Yeah.
Not actually that long. Actually, too long. No, it's only about 10 seconds. There's 30 seconds for the fade out, but 20 of it's silence. Now, I'm assuming that's because whoever put this album together, like, doesn't care that much.
Yeah, that
Like,
sounds about right.
I don't think it's necessarily Wolfie's fault, but it's still not great.
Yeah, still not. We've had worse.
Yeah,
but,
so very close cover, but also you were mentioning the guitar part. They changed that a little bit. It's kind of, they kind of do a slide up before they slide down.
yeah.
Brown.
Wow.
I don't know. Not much else to say about that other
don't
than
talk
that it
about it.
happens.
Sounded like a cat.
But really, they don't have the like subtleties that the original had that made it engaging.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just not a very good version. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, probably fine if you heard it at a bar or something. Like a part
Yeah.
of the advantage.
That
of the
feels like
songs
where
is-
you'd hear this. Just some
Mhm.
random bar you went into that had some older guys playing
Yeah,
on stage.
that's the vibe.
Yeah.
But that's not the vibe for our next artist, Maria Doyle Kennedy in 2005.
Break down, go ahead and give it to me now. Break down, honey, take me through the night. Break down, I'm standing here, can't you see? Break down.
Maria, who's supposedly an actor.
Yeah, so her biggest role, I haven't seen the TV show, but Downton Abbey was
Yeah.
a big deal Vera Bates. She plays the role of Vera Bates. She's also in Sing Street, a movie I have seen, but I don't remember her in it.
Oh. Apparently she was in Dexter and The Tutors.
Dexter and the Tutors.
Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah, so she's like, and
So like
I
she's
think
in
Otter Page
stuff.
says she's like one of Ireland's most like, most important actors or something. Like she's a big deal. But yeah, just kind of like she's in the business. She's in the mix.
Yeah. And this is her singing.
Yeah. This is her solo album. She did a couple albums with the Black Velvet Band, and now most of her work is solo. This is a solo one. It's acoustic, baby.
It is acoustic. Right off the bat, comes in with the chords. Dun, dun, dun. On acoustic guitar, played a lot more straight.
Yeah.
That's what this one does.
And then arpeggios in the back for rhythm.
Yes, with some picking on because there's two acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
Kind of doing some strumming, but also picking in between the strumming.
Yeah. And she comes in with some vocals.
Yeah, singing soft.
Yep.
Again, picking guitars, still happening. Great. It's
Yeah,
kind of got some rhythm.
real
Ding,
simple
ding, ding,
composition.
ding, 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 ding.
In that acoustic cover kind of way.
Yeah. And the other guitar picks in between the lines. Like these are techniques we've seen before. When she's not
Yeah.
singing, kind of get some more more picking. That was a weird word I said.
Mhm.
It only happens once though, like in the first half.
Yeah. She also says no at the end of the first half of the verse.
No. Yes, she does. Between the halves. And there's no instruments playing, so it's very focused on
Yeah.
her voice saying no. That's not how she says it though.
No.
You know, like ad-libbing.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the verse, which is the same, but it's louder. The other guitar is louder,
Yeah.
so kind of adjusting the levels of those guitars.
And we get a bit of that picking in between lines again. Ba-bam-bam. Just kind of like what the lead guitar does in the original, but kind of not.
Kind of.
Yeah. And then, of course, the energy on the chorus is about the same as the verse.
Yeah, I mean, a little higher because we move into like the guitar starts strumming, but it's kind of got that like gallopy strumming. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. So like we're not picking anymore. It's strumming chords.
Right.
She sings a little differently too. She's not singing as softly anymore. But yeah, it's all chords, and there's a piano too. It's very low though.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Yeah, no backup vocals. She doesn't double track or anything.
oh yeah,
She's a
not
bit
noticing
louder,
that.
not like heavy. And then, yeah, at the back end of it, when she gets to the all rights, she kind of breaks to that softer bit again.
Sure does. There's kind of like some arpeggios that lead into the next section at the end of the chorus.
Yeah. And we get the guitar riff after that.
We
I mean,
do.
the lick,
Sorry, yeah. The
rather.
next section is yeah, because we got the two guitars, so like they're doing this like picking thing, dun, 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 and then the other one joins in. You know, kind of
Mhm.
get that like don't put it all in at once. Gotta ease in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, ease them into it.
Oh yeah, easing in. All right.
And then we're back to the chorus again.
Are we back to the chorus? Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
They do. Sorry, I'm saying a lot of words because I can't
They
decide what
do.
I want to say. I don't want to say any of those words. Forget
Fine.
about them.
Okay. What
Um,
are we talking about?
But yes, there's another chorus. And kind of the same. I noticed the piano a little more this time.
Yeah, I heard it more this one than on the
So-
previous.
And I always wonder if it's just because I listened to it more. I think it's there a little more because I went back and then now I notice it more in the first one because I'm more confident that it's there, kind of thing. I don't know. And those arpeggios again, very short arpeggios to transition out, and then we get the riff again, and then it
Yeah.
kind of like end is quite sudden.
Yeah.
Which I think plays into this idea, because like we get that riff, and then it does that for a while, and then it kind of doesn't end like right when you would expect it to. Like it doesn't end
Yeah.
cleanly.
It's like it needs one more note, right?
Yeah. Like it's not actually over, which I think is a pretty solid idea, because the song doesn't really conclude the story.
Right.
There's no resolution, so I think it kind of fits with that. It's like, what's
Yeah.
next? There's no words, but it's
Just
not
like the
over.
title, the song breaks down.
Breaks down at some point and just ends. So I
Yeah.
thought this was pretty good, like presentation wise. It sounded pretty good with the guitars, and like the vocals had pretty good delivery. Very different from the original, but still had like we're able to like keep it laid back and keep it low, and it stayed very sparse. I mean, there was just those two guitars, which isn't that tricky because that's kind of the singer-songwriter thing, but it's more or less in keeping with the original. Obviously, there's no
Yeah.
groove in this one, but
Yeah, that's fair. It stays
It's a different
sparse
feeling.
while also not being your typical acoustic where it would just be like hitting the chords the whole time through just one steady rhythm. Like she's actually changing it up.
right, she's doing different
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more involved than a lot of acoustic covers we see, and I think that's part of the benefit. She's got a good voice as well.
Yeah.
And this is all builds to a much more lower energy sort of version.
Yeah. I also liked it. Which
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was all right.
always like slow acoustic covers of songs, but this is pretty well done.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Speaking of versions I don't always like and still don't like this week, let's talk about jazz artist Adele Zane in
Adele
2005.
Zane.
Baby, break down. Go ahead and give it to me. Break down. Take me through the night. Break down. Oh,
Yes, a present day jazz singer,
Yeah.
according to her bio.
She's also farsighted, according to her bio.
Oh, well, she's not wearing glasses in any of these photographs.
Yeah. I think she meant it metaphorically, but weird way to phrase it. So
So-
this is just her and a bass, a stand-up bass.
Very like, I mean, the original's very rhythm based, and this one,
Yeah.
I guess, also very rhythm based. It kind of does that, the two notes with a lot of like runs and notes in between them. Ba-da-doo,
Mhm.
boom, ba-da-doo, boom, and then like other stuff too. You know how jazz do.
Yeah, and so since it's like a big vocal jazz performance, there's a heavy emphasis on never saying any line the same way.
Yes, you gotta makes all those like little differences in the melody with the vocals
Yeah.
that are constantly changing and not the same as the original. Note on the style of singing. This has come up before. It's that really like kind of delicate. I would say like front of the mouth singing, where you
Yeah.
really hear the like teeth and the tongue in the way it's sung.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, she kind of like the verse and the chorus kind of blend together because it really is just her vocal performance, which doesn't follow a structure, or at least like a verse chorus structure at the very least. The
Right.
bass just kind of plodding behind her. And then at the 125 mark, she says, "What do you have to say about that?"
Yeah,
And this
she gets that.
upsets the
It's
bass
kind of the
player.
like. I think it fits in with like the confidence of the original version, but not much else. It's kind of the like lounge jazz feel with the ad libbing, even though it's probably not ad libbed per se. Maybe.
Yeah,
But anyway, then there's a bass solo,
yeah,
quite a long one.
very long. He's very aggressive and mad. It sounds like me when I'm trying to do a bass solo.
Yeah,
There's a lot of that gross string slapping, and then like just this kind of fast, frustrated playing.
it does get quite fast. It's like playing eighth notes. It really drops the groove.
Yeah.
Which, when a bass solo drops the groove, I feel like I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much of a groove before, but even what it did have, it doesn't feel rhythmic. And I always like a bass solo that manages to feel like sound cool and also be very rhythmic, which I think are the best
Yeah.
bass solos. Because this one feels like bass shredding, which is a little less appealing to me personally.
Yeah, it just doesn't come off as anything. And maybe it's technically impressive. He's hitting those notes pretty quick, but it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it's
That doesn't help that he's the only instrument to be doing anything here.
true. True. There's nothing else to
Yeah.
support him. So I guess it's tough to be out there on your own. It goes back into the bass line that I was playing before for the
Yeah.
verse. There's a little more of that ad-libbing in that she has the like kind of like makes a little like laugh sound. She'll be like, your eyes, they give you away. Like
It's like a dramatic reading.
yeah. Well, I
Breakdown.
think it's the like the lounge thing where she's supposed to
Yeah.
sound like this lounge singer, in a lounge that could only afford one bass and nothing else.
Yeah.
And then another chorus. Another chorus? Yeah, we did a chorus before.
Yeah. Worth noting before we hit
Oh,
that
sure.
chorus, she starts to sing a lot harder about 248. She's really trying to punch those vocals out.
That's true. Moves it a little bit more up into her nose. So I try to hear where sounds come from, but it doesn't really make sense.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, she does the chorus, and then as we get near the end, she does scat near the end of this song.
Yeah, there's some scatting. With some like ad-libbing in between the scatting. Scatting's kind of ad-libbing as well.
Yeah.
She also gets a little like twangy close to the end. Something like break down, it's all right. Anyway, yeah. So I feel like the centerpiece of this being the bass solo is a bit lacking. I didn't like it very much.
Yeah. It's and like there would be something fine in the verses being as laid back as they are if we punched up the chorus a little more, maybe
Still get that
in a way that
contrast.
isn't just her being like ski babu doo dee dee da boo doo
Ski-ba-boo-dee,
breakdown.
Yeah, I think she does a decent job with the vocals, but I don't think this version really comes together.
Yeah, I don't think this vocal style speaks to me in any meaningful way.
Quite
It sounds
possibly.
just a bit put on, just a bit like it's like you're like, oh, I gotta have every line in here have an attitude to it, so I'm gonna push for it to have attitude. When you gotta be singing it naturally, not like a theater performer.
Right.
It sounds like theater performance to me, and that's where you lose me as a listener.
Right. I guess, like you were saying, because it changes the melody so much, it feels like it's just trying to do something different. Even though that's
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, unless you had a really cool melody, but it isn't really significantly different. Like, it doesn't make a difference. She could have sung it the other
Yeah.
way, and my reaction would be more or less the same, but I wouldn't be like, why is she doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that. Coming up next in the year 2011, it's the CalypsoNuts.
Baby, break down. Go ahead, give it to me. Break down, honey, take me through the night. Break down, now, still now, can you see? Break down, it's all.
CalypsoNuts. They play a lot of like steel drum music and try to sound like tropical. As far as I
Yeah.
can tell, they have a Virginia area code
Okay.
on their Facebook page, so I don't think they're like from the Caribbean or anything.
No, and they do a lot of work on cruise lines and stuff.
That
So,
makes sense.
it's calypso for white people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sponsored by Corona Extra, Corona Light, and KokomoIslandTraders.com.
I don't know what. Say Kokomo Island?
Yes.
Hmm.
Kokomo Island Traders.
Corona. A beer that comes in a
Corona.
clear glass bottle.
Wowee.
Put a lime in it? I guess.
Yeah. I thought that was, I was going to ask if that was a CalypsoNuts song. It sounds like it would be.
That's
Put a lime in it.
Put a lime in it. Put a
Okay,
lime
so
in
we
it.
open with guitar and saxophone on this.
Yes, strumming guitar and some saxophone. Just like, I guess this is their groove. Not really, actually.
No,
The
it's almost
saxophone-
completely divorced
Yeah.
from what comes after.
The saxophone just does this, like, kind of extended saxophone note. And then they play the riff. The lick, sorry.
Hit me with that lick.
On
What
the
is
steel
it, a
drums.
xylophone?
Steel drum.
Oh, that's a steel drum? That's what that sounds like?
Yeah.
Okay.
That kind of resonant metallic sound.
Right. Okay, so that's the steel drum.
Or I think it's a steel drum. I mean, they specifically say steel drum music on their
Right, and
On
if
their
that's just like a
Facebook
rhythm
page.
piece, like if it's just the thing
Yeah,
doing
they're
that.
like, yeah, we wanted to get a vibraphone in instead of a steel drum just to switch it up a little bit. It's like, guys, you have a steel drum player. I think it's a steel drum. So let's see what else. There's a lot of reverb on the vocals. I'm kind of jumping ahead of my own thoughts here.
Sure, jump around.
Jump around. Vocals coming, lots of reverb.
Yeah, lady singing on this one. Did we mention that already?
No, I don't think so.
Because the CalypsoNuts is not a gendered name, so you can't really guess
True.
from it.
Nuts.
Nuts.
Anyway.
it should have been the CalypsoNauts, like Nauts.
Ooh, do you think that exists?
Well, probably not. It'd be too close to the CalypsoNuts now.
You're right. It doesn't exist. Also still kind of has like a disinterested sound to it. Sounds more
Yeah.
disinterested than like low energy. Or like it's low energy because of the disinterest.
Yeah.
Anyway. Just, a little editorializing from me.
Well, you got to knock this out while people are getting shrimp cocktails. I don't know what they do on cruise lines. I don't know where the band plays. In the dining hall, right?
I haven't been on a cruise, but that's where I assume they would play.
Yeah, all right.
I think so. Yeah. You probably do like shows as well, but you play, I think, while people are eating, yeah.
Yeah.
I
like a
mean, it
dinner
depends on the
theater,
cruise. I don't know.
I suppose. Yeah, it does sound like she's just trying to whip through this, doesn't it?
A little bit. They got the saxophone like comes back sometimes. Just a little bit, like between lines.
Yeah.
Mostly?
Between verses, it'll go. Yeah.
I guess it also plays for the build. Like the build is mostly rhythm guitar, but there's some sax at the top of the
Right.
build.
Yeah, those verses are real sparse. It's that drum, a little rhythm guitar, and then just her singing.
Yeah, rhythm guitar playing the. Dun, 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 dun. So I guess the two notes, but they're chords now.
Yeah, and then that's the chorus too. Like, there's not a lot of difference.
True. Yeah, they mostly stick with that rhythm. There's some backup vocals now, which is what you do. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we get a steel drum solo after the first chorus.
Yes, starts playing the guitar part, and then
Yeah.
solos for a while. And then the saxophone joins it. And
That's
then the
right.
saxophone solos for a while. So they got
That's
some
right.
solos in this one.
Yeah, it's the big meat of this, because this is 5 minutes long, or just short of it.
It is. Kind of do more of the stuff they did before. Like there's a chorus on that rhythm guitar with some saxophone. Steel drums play the riff.
Yeah.
Do the second half of the verse
um,
again. Oh yeah, they do the second half of the verse again, but only the second half, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. We get another sax solo at some point.
Yes, it does. I skipped over it by accident, but there's a solo, then a chorus, and then back into a sax solo.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the verse. There is like a bit where the rhythm switches up, which is kind of exciting because it's very constant in this. And then there's like some actually audible bass very briefly. At like 3:13, I can't like right before the verse starts up again. Might be 3:12.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah.
So.
There is a bass in this song. In case
There is
you
a
were
bass.
wondering, it's there for at least like a second.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, do the verse, like I said, do the verse again, another chorus, more steel drums, playing the steel drums a bit with some saxophone, and then like that plays us out, really. Fades out.
Yeah.
Kind of get a sax drone. Yeah.
Sax drones out. When I first put this one on the playlist, I was like, okay, finally something that's gonna be
Interesting. I did say not
interesting.
that long ago, we don't talk about Calypso enough on here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Unfortunately, this version wasn't that great.
Yeah, it's really kind of boring and not that good.
Well, see, I've been staring at this album artwork. It's a steel drum, but I've been like, yeah, it's a lens with water on it.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's
It's a steel drum.
Well,
Anyway,
anyway, that's as good a time as
Yeah.
any to start talking about Nicole Ockmond in
Yeah.
the year 2017.
Baby, break down. Go ahead and give it to me. Break down and you take me through the night. Break down, I'm standing here, can't you see? Break down.
Nicole Ockmond. She singer-songwriter type. Done some work
Yeah.
in like New Orleans with some blues artists in there. And this is a fairly bluesy feeling one with like a little bit of jazz in there, possibly just the drums because it's got the like brushy drums which I
Oh yeah.
associate with jazz, but I'll admit I don't know much about.
Yeah, so that's the big things right off the bat. We get those
Yeah.
brush drums.
Yeah, kind of shaky.
We get a very blues sounding guitar doing the guitar riff.
Yes. And an organ. Starts with like a little organ riff.
Yes.
Much better sounding organ than back with Wolfie.
Yeah.
Pretty, or how does it actually go? Yeah, organ plays along with that bass. Guitar, yeah, like you said, guitar playing the riff. Backing guitar playing some chords. So like very similar to what we've come to expect from this.
Safe cover.
Yeah. It's got those swishy drums, like I said. Decent organ playing in that low end. Sometimes the guitar plays along with it. Actually, interesting, in the verse, the organ is playing those low end chords and the guitar is playing them as well, but they're kind of like slightly desynchronized, so they're like just off a little bit, which is kind of fun.
That's a bit fun.
Yeah. And the organ builds, but it's actually simplified. Some of them have added notes, but this one does not. It takes them away.
Right.
Which, yeah, it kind of goes against some of the things the other versions have done.
Yeah,
While
it's a
still-
very simple build, just like big long holds.
Yeah. Which is often good for organ, because when you really hold notes, like particularly chords in the organ, they get that kind of like waver. It's a good sound. You can get like kind of a drone. I guess that's kind of the appeal of the organ drone, is it's got this like wavery shake to it.
Yeah,
Which-
so it's interesting even when it's just being sustained.
Yeah, which I guess you would call tremolo.
Tremolo.
Organ, I've talked before about how much I like the sound of the saxophone, how it's like strained and tortured, or it can be. That's not how it's always played, but it's cool when it sounds like that. And I think organ has like a similar appeal sometimes when it has that because of the tremolo, it's sort of a like vulnerable sound. Like it can be very powerful, but then it sort of like wavers.
Right. So
Anyway.
even when it's hitting full force, it's got a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's got a little bit of something there. You're like, oh,
Yeah, adds a little texture. little
something
depth.
going on with that organ.
I can dig that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with it, but I can dig it.
Well, timbres are fun to talk about, I think.
Hell yeah. Yeah, she sings high sometimes. I think she has a bit of a lisp when she says "I said" at the start of the second half of the
Second half.
verse. I noticed she's got a bit of Kermit, a little bit of Shakira quality around the 2-minute mark.
She does that even like 50 seconds.
Yeah,
A little bit. You kind of get that stronger singing thing. That like nasal push.
Yeah. I hear it.
Yeah. Something about soft palates, I'm sure.
Must be.
Probably. I mean, what else would it be?
What else would it be? Now I've noted that the chorus is low energy. What do you think about that, Alex?
The chorus is low energy. Let me. Yeah, it definitely doesn't do like a big jump up like the original. She sings pretty softly throughout.
Yeah.
The other notable thing in here is there's like the guitar riff section, but then there's like an actual guitar solo in it.
Yeah.
Right before getting back into the chorus. And it's very bluesy guitar solo. And it does a lot of descending. I don't know if that means anything. And like sliding and stuff.
Yeah.
But pretty good blues sound.
Yeah. And maybe that descending is because it's trying to pull from the
Right.
lick.
Yeah, probably. And it fits in. So it's always nice when a solo sounds reasonable in the space it's in.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the idea, I guess.
Oh, yes. Yeah, ultimately, like, this one's just kind of fine.
Yeah, it's like it's decent. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention that happens throughout, a lot of the actual building, it comes from the drums changing because they start swishy with the brushes and then they kind of sharpen up at a couple times to by the end it's more
Okay.
just like a straight kit being played, or like it doesn't sound swishy anymore.
Right. Yeah, I
So
hear that now.
that's really where the build comes from, I think, because she doesn't sing super intense or anything.
Right. So instead, it's based on the percussion and how it's sort of being hit. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think so. So honestly, I think it's a decent version. Good blues sound. Sounds like there's some pretty reasonably skilled musicians on this one. She does a pretty good job singing it. It didn't like blow me away, but I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll agree to that. Let's talk about Spoon in the year 2021.
Spoon.
Break down, go ahead and give it to me. Break down, take me through the night. Break down, I'm standing here, can't you see? Break down, it's all
We talked about Spoon a
Spoon.
long time ago.
Yeah, it's like probably first 10 episodes that
Yeah,
came up.
Inside Out. But this is not Inside Out. This is Spoon live performing
Spoon live.
Breakdown.
So they're the American indie rock band from Austin, Texas. And it's live. It's studio recording live.
Oh, right, studio live
So I watched the video of it. There is a video. It's just them in a studio.
performing the song.
Everybody but the singers got masks on. I don't even know if the drummer's actually present in this or if it's just a drum machine because you don't see him in the video, but he might just be on the other side of the camera. Not because he's filming it, but because
Because
how
it's
how
in
set
a
up.
room. You'd
It's
think
in a
they
room.
like they're moving the camera, so you'd think it would show the drummer, right?
Yeah, you would think. But they did 2 covers that they released. Both Tom Petty, Breakdown, and A Face in the Crowd.
Oh.
And we're talking about breakdown, baby.
Sure are.
So the bassist is also the vocalist. And then you got a dude on a keyboard and then a dude on guitar. And this is very faithful to the original. We're hitting all the same notes. This is like a high production version of Wolfie, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, really, the problem with Wolfie wasn't that it was a close cover. It was that Wolfie sounds generic and doesn't do an exciting version. This is clearly a more skilled band doing a solid version of the song.
Yeah.
Like, they do much closer to the original groove, and it feels more like a groove, like they're more locked in there. It's got the bluesy sound. His vocals are pretty cool. The way he sings, like, I can definitely hear. I have limited exposure to Spoon, but like comparing it to Inside Out, like that's obviously his voice. But now in this context, I can hear the similarities with Tom Petty.
Right.
Because it's kind of higher, and he can do that sort of like more pushed up nasally thing. But it's not really, I wouldn't really call his voice very nasal.
No,
And then particularly once you get to the
playing-
chorus, he kind of has this like more strained sound on his, when he sings. And
yeah,
you really get
particularly
that
on the baby that comes in on the chorus. Sounds like
yeah.
it hurts a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I feel like he's been doing it for long enough that he's figured it out.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, so he is in that nasal range without necessarily sounding like a Tom Petty impersonation.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds Tom Petty adjacent, but I didn't think it was too close or anything.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how his voice goes. But like, there's not a whole lot to note. Like, it is all like the tone's different on everything, but it's kind of their sound instead. But solid version doesn't do a whole lot to switch things up.
Yeah, it's very pleasant. I think it's always great to sort of keep older musicians' music, particularly when key members have passed away, sort of keep it in the rotation by releasing even a cover this close. It's like, oh yeah, it sounds like Spoon still, but it also is obviously a Tom Petty song.
Yeah. They do a little more lo-fi too, I think. Like, you can kind of hear it in the drums. That's just their style, though.
Like, even his vocal style on the chorus it's not the punch of Tom Petty, but it's got this strain quality to it that helps bring some of the same quality to the chorus of this, like, this shift to something a little rough.
Particularly like right at the end when you can hear him. Like you already said when he says baby, but it's kind of similar when he says break down, it's all right. Kind of almost breaks into like a falsetto-y sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. That's our covers this week. We got 3 categories. It's gonna be the worst version, the best version, and the version that it's all right. That's right, the middleist version.
The middleist version. Okay.
So Alex, what's the worst version of this and why?
Worst version of this. There were a couple that weren't very good. But I think for me, it's Wolfie. It just didn't do anything. And on top of that, didn't do a very good job.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was boring, and I see zero reason to listen to the Wolfie version over anything else for any reason ever.
That's fair. That's a fair take. Yeah, there's a few bottom of the barrel ones here. Wolfie, the CalypsoNuts wasn't great, and I really didn't like Adele Zane. That said, Adele Zane did try something different. So did the CalypsoNuts, and I mean, you have to give that some respect. Even if you do a bad job at doing a different cover of the cover, at least you're not just walking in its footsteps and still tripping. Like, and that's what's happened with Wolfie, right? They just didn't do anything, and it sounds like they didn't do anything. So you're right, it is Wolfie. Wolfie is the worst version of this. Alex, what's the best version?
What is the best version? There were also some good covers. This was like a real... I mean, we really covered a lot here in that there were some like really bad ones, some really good ones, and like some okay ones. So I'm glad
range.
all three of those are going to be honored here today. So which one did I like the most? Let me just think about this for a second. Which one did I like the most? I'm just trying to remember what they all are. Going between a couple. Can't be that one. Don't think it's that one. As much as there were some I liked, I'm having trouble justifying giving it to anyone other than Grace Jones, because it does the most with it, and I think it kind of, compared to the other ones, most successfully moves it into something else. And maybe it's just because I also like the more new wave sound that one has. But I think that's got to be it. I
gotta agree with you. I think that is the best one. I will give shout outs to, I liked a lot of elements of Suzi Quatro's version. I thought Maria Doyle did a good acoustic cover. But yeah, it's Grace Jones is like, whereas everybody else was stuck trying to either match that groove or, match that minimalism. Grace Jones said, fuck it. We're gonna put just a bunch in here. And have a groove, but have it be different. And she really put her signature on it. She's got a great fucking voice. She got bonus material from the original artist, which is hard to compete with.
True.
And yeah, it sounds good. Like, and I don't mind the 2-minute groove at the end of the track. Like, maybe I'll find the single version, see if that's got that tightness of the original that I like so much. But I don't mind that this hangs out for a bit and it's like, listen to this guitar that's soloing but also not shredding. It's just taking it kind of easy. It's a very cool cover. And Grace Jones seems pretty cool, and I might have to do a little more research there.
Cool is definitely like part of this song.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it, I think. With that, Alex, which one of these is all right?
Now I'm trying to approach this as like kind of backhanded compliment, so I don't want to give it to one that I liked too much. So the one that is just all right, probably the CalypsoNuts. Like it's nothing really going on there. It's not nothing special. I don't know. I thought it was fine.
Right.
It's not like compared to Wolfie, for example. It actually they sound competent.
Right.
I guess Wolfie doesn't sound that competent. That's not fair to Wolfie. But yeah, they could play the cruise line, and on the cruise line be like, oh yeah, that's all right. So there were a bunch I liked more than that, but I didn't want to give them the okayest because I felt like they're better than that.
Yeah. Now I'm going through my head. So since I've already kind of established my top 3 and bottom 3 in my other answers, so what's left is either Nicole, Ockmond, or Spoon for most all right. I'm gonna chuck it to Spoon just because it's all right. Like I don't love it. I don't hate it. Yeah, I like it. It's all right.
Yeah. We definitely approached that one differently.
Yeah, 100%. And that, you know what, Alex? That's all right.
That's all right. Yeah.
And that's our main segment today. If you've got a different opinion, a similar opinion, want to talk to us about a version we didn't talk about, hit us up on Twitter, #CoverMePod, @JakeTheCressy, @SomeAlexWiseGuy. Tell us what you think. You can also email us at covermepod@gmail.com. Send us your comments, questions, concerns. We'll talk to you there. You can also rate and review us on Google Podcasts, maybe. I don't know if they review, but you can follow us there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher of all places. Like your favorite podcasting app. I was stalling for time. I was going to think of a fake one. I think I had one in the bank and it was good, but I've forgotten it. So there's a bunch of real ones for you. We got a bonus segment. Haven't done it in a while, but we got one today. It's a classic Battle of the Band. Or rather this week, Battle of the Supergroup. Alex, in a battle royale of the Traveling Wilburys, assuming they were all alive.
Right. In their heyday.
Which, of course,
Of course, Roy
consists
Orbison
of-
wasn't in great shape for their heyday, so
That's true. Consisting of Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty. Who's going to win this
Ooh,
fight?
that's a big one.
I can tell you,
Um,
George Harrison, pacifist, not going to win. Easy, knock him
Pacifist.
off.
Yeah. He's not gonna fight. Bob Dylan's got some grit to him, I think.
Yeah.
But he might just not care.
That's also true.
Let's see. I think now Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne, they were friends after, but they didn't really know each other before, so I feel like Roy Orbison's kind of out of it. No one wants to hit Roy Orbison. Maybe that makes him the winner, but he's not really in the fight.
Yeah.
George Harrison's out of the fight too. Like you said, he's a pacifist. So that leaves Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne.
Jeff Lynne. I feel like Tom Petty's got some, some wrong side of the track vibes. Like, I feel like he can throw down.
He's Floridian,
Yeah.
so he's got that going for him.
He's a Florida man.
He is a Florida man, so he's really a wild card.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say because of that. I think Bob Dylan's a little frail for the fight. I think Jeff Lynne can take Bob Dylan out, but I'm not sure he could take Tom Petty out.
Yeah, I'm looking at Jeff Lynne's upbringing because he's English too. So
Okay.
that could
Oh,
play
yeah.
either way for him. Like, he could be a tough guy, or he could be quite a fancy boy.
Yeah, I don't
let's
really know what his
see.
background is.
Yeah, me neither. But I know that Tom Petty dropped out of high school at the age of 17 to play bass in a band. So he's got real, like, Tom Petty's hardcore, I feel. And, like, if you motivate him right in the fight, I think he would have
Yeah, I
come out
think
on top.
like he's got to be unpredictable. He's the wild
Yeah,
card element, and I think like 7 times out of 10 he can take it. He can take him.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think ultimately it's got to go to Tom Petty.
Yeah, Tom Petty, I agree. Boom. That's our bonus segment. If you want to tell us who you think would win that Battle of the Band, hashtag Battle of the Band. And tell us who you think would win. Tell us if you even think they would fight. Tell us if you even care. That's it.
Tell us if
for
you
our
think
bonus
Bob
segment.
Dylan might be secretly tall and you just don't know about it, and he could actually take everyone out somehow.
Yeah, tell us if Bob Dylan's a fighter.
Is Bob Dylan tall? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Bob Dylan tall.
Sometimes it's hard to tell just from pictures, you know?
Yeah.
Although in my mind, everyone I see in a picture is like really tall, and I don't know why. I like don't have a sense of scale like that. Like every time I see a movie, I'm like, wow, how is everyone like 7 feet tall? But then maybe that's just what the movie's supposed to be like, because sometimes they put them in platform shoes or whatever. But like, then
Yeah.
they're not that tall.
Okay, hang on. Foot. He's 5'6". He's not very tall.
No. Okay, Bob Dylan's not secretly tall. Just a secret from
maybe-
me, though.
Yeah, so there you go. Tell us what you think. That's the end of our show. And as we always say on Cover Me, honey, take me through the night.